Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How is it? There's Bob.
Good
Bob in the
morning.
black shirt.
He's back.
Are you in the
In,
south
in
or
Florida, black shirt in Florida.
Black shirt Florida
It
guy.
like
doesn't fit.
oven? How can I sweat
Robert
more?
Berry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Bob's
go out in
part.
my
See,
all
Thanks.
black outfit.
what you don't know is he's part ninja, so he has to wear black just by code.
Take a look at account ending in 3816.
Mark, you're still on vacation?
Me, no. I bought back Saturday night.
Oh, all right.
It was just more of
We-
a it was more of not being in my house, because when you do this every day, it's really not a vacation. It's just changing venues.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So
it's a good feeling to that.
yeah, it's fine.
Same for
Let's get
me.
rolling. Let's get rolling, and then we'll get to commentary. I'm sure Bob is full of commentary. We haven't seen him in a while. Okay, markets are kind of flattish today. Okay, we've got the big beautiful bill passed the Senate by a vote of the vice president. So now it's going back to the House. So, that's been the news basically. The other thing that was kind of interesting is Powell came out and he said, well, he might have cut interest rates, except for the tariffs. And, from what I see, the tariffs aren't really affecting inflation like he thought it was. And you can see that in the numbers, but he still hasn't lowered rates. But we'll see what happens here later in July. The Dow went up yesterday. NASDAQ and S&P were down. Some of the rotation out of tech. Dow was up. United Health, our laggard, finally popped up a little bit, which helped out the Dow. Today we have ADP employment. Challenger job cuts came out, down 36,000 in jobs. 95,000 was the expected as far as a gain. And it said also so far this year, companies have announced 744,628,000 job cuts. That's the highest year to date since 2020. And we know what happened in 2020. So interesting little factoid right there. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to show you something here that we've been tracking. And I got a thunderstorm going on behind me. So if you hear any noise, that's what's going on. So every week we put out, about 3 different lists of stocks. And so I threw them on an Excel spreadsheet this week. We have swing trade watch lists like swing trades. Okay, and here's all our stocks in the swing trades. And if you look at it, we've had actually yesterday 14 of 14 are all in the gains from what this week's swing trade list. And then we added on yesterday, we talked about Zion's Bank Corp wasn't on the list and it went up 4.37%. So when you look at what we're doing, Estee Lauder's up 13% since we put it on the list. Schenectady Financial's up 10%. Advanced Micro up 9.4. AMD 8.4. 3.79 on Datadog. You can see, all the way to Monolithic Power 1.7. So those are the longer term. These follow basically my trading guidelines. We also have the under the 200 list. Okay, I can get it to stop here a little bit. And on the other 200 list, we have 14 to 17 are in the green, or 82% so far this week. Well, that's the swing trade list. Let me move this down a little bit. And there we go. And Whirlpool has just been on a tear. We've had it on for 3 weeks. Okay, on the swing trade, it's up almost 24%. Illumina 8.75. Petco, Wolf 13%. Norwegian Cruise Line 5.51. We go down Land's End of all things, 10% up. And these are just on this week's list. And then you have a couple that, didn't quite make it. This one here, Fortive just dropped off. So you wouldn't have traded in that because of the way it dropped. But, charts can't tell you everything, but technicals can tell you a little bit. And so far this week, we've done pretty good on this with 82% in the green so far. And then yesterday we talked a little, I brought up charts of, crap, so can't get it to go. We'll move it this way. Smuckers, we just added these on. That these look pretty good after Monday. And Smuckers went up 4.84%. Newsmax was the only loser of the ones we just kind of talked about. A Brown Foreman up 3.5%. This is one day. Kellanova 0.5%. McDonald's went up 1.82, and Macy's went up 5.75% just yesterday. And these are the under 200 list. Okay, so that one's done pretty well. You can see, and then we have momentum lists. These tend to drop off quicker because you're trading them up towards the top. Now, I don't really trade these stocks, okay, because number one, I don't have the patience and I don't have the time to do it. I don't like momentum. I don't like buying at the top. I like buying at the bottom, just like Whirlpool, and letting it roll up. So this of the momentum list, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of 19 that are still in. That's 47%. But you can see on these momentums, we're not getting the 20%, the 9%, the 5%. They're a lot smaller because there's less room to go up to the top side. We talk about risk and reward. And then when you do trade on momentum on the top, when they turn pretty good. And you can see that's why you have stops in. So they're a little more high maintenance for me. But we do provide it for those who want to trade momentum. So again, we're going to start putting this out either on the website or in the Discord, so we can kind of track, and you guys can take a look and see what we're looking at. Let's go look at some of the charts. Okay. And SPY. Again, SPY is rolling right up the upper Bollinger Band. Yesterday, kind of came down a little bit. Again, we're seeing a little bit of resistance above it. We don't have an intermediate resistance level yet, but looks like we're going to open just right about where we closed. Qs. Same thing. We do have resistance on the Qs. That popped up. That wasn't there yesterday. So now we're right at resistance. We're going to open up a little lower on the Qs. We're seeing a little bit of roll out of the technology sector. And then the Dow took off 400 points yesterday, right along the upper Bollinger Band. Again, not full of tech companies in the Dow, only 30 companies. We're going to open right about below resistance. You can see we have resistance right there, and then some sell orders above it. So we're starting to see resistance return. You will see that when you start, this big momentum push up, and we'll see what happens later. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is continues to just stay above this support level, this third level of support we've been seeing, playing between the 50 and the 9, basically. It's above the 50, uses 50 as support. We're sitting at about 107.3 in Bitcoin. A little bit of a convergence on the Bollinger Bands, but again, not as choppy as we've been seeing, in the equities market, just very kind of steady since, back in May, just kind of this sideways pattern. So it's not as volatile as it used to be, at least, in the second quarter of this month. Let's look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA's come up, hit resistance, drop back down. Okay, you can see following up, and NVIDIA draws a lot of, this is why you saw the Qs and the S&P not do as well as the Dow, because this is just one of the biggest components in both of those indices. Same with Meta. See, Meta came back down to resistance. Microsoft, going through kind of quick. Microsoft resistance has come up on Microsoft. We're just starting to see it, on these mags. The mags were rolling for a while, and now it looks like a little bit of a rotation out of that sector. Google, it's been playing with resistance for a while, but it is above the 200. And then we'll look at Palantir. Palantir's came up, rolling right along that resistance level, got up to the upper Bollinger, and then it started sinking. You can see the 9. We've seen this pattern, comes up, hits that resistance level, and then starts sinking. And then we start seeing price action go down, and confirmed by the oscillators for sure. Let's go look at some of these in the under the 200. Weyerhaeuser, up almost 24% since we put it on. This has been the ones that you dream about. You get in back, in June 9th. We're almost a month into this, and this thing has gotten us 24%. Now, you could have gotten out at a lot of places, the 200. Now that they've moved, support and resistance has moved up because of this move. and Whirlpool just keeps moving up. And you've got more sell orders above it at 108.89, and then you got intermediate resistance at 113. But nice mover. These are what we want, and this is what I'm talking about when I try to find these that get down at the bottoms and start rising up, as opposed to finding them when they're up here, on the momentum list, and then you've got a little bit to go on the top. I try to find these that you can ride them up and you don't have to work so hard, like in Whirlpool. BVWI under the 200. This came up, almost tapped the 200. Again, we got in back at this level here. When you want to get it where it starts to turn and your oscillators turn on you, and then ride it up, got above the 50. You could possibly take this off if you don't think you can get past the 50. We have been past the 50. It's always good to take a little profit. And tomorrow we only have a half day of trading, and then we're off for a long weekend. And you may want to pull some profits out because you never know what's going to happen over the weekend. But there is room to run. I wouldn't buy it outside the Bollinger Bands, but we hit it pretty good where we did hit it. LE, another one. Land's End. Okay, we watched Land's End. I caught it a little bit later, but caught it right when it came back inside the Bollinger Band. Said, okay, let's put that on the list. Went sideways and up. We see that a lot, sideways and up. Came up, we hit sell orders, but we still have a little ways to go before we hit the 200. And then we watch that 200, and it either can bounce down off of it and not get past it, or it does get past it like some we've seen. And if it can get past it, you got a long way up to resistance. So there's a lot to be made on these under the 200s and in the watch list. If you hit them right, you don't have to really spend much time watching them like you might have to on a momentum type stock. ILMN, this has been a nice little slow mover. We watch this. Wish I would have got in a little bit earlier, but kind of went sideways up to the Bollinger, sideways, popped into it, put it on the list. It's just been a nice runner up. We got some. Again, it kind of went up and hit sell orders, but it's just bouncing right off that Bollinger Band. This is kind of like that Whirlpool, I just kind of like it. So, in Lumina, we're up 8.75%, in a matter of 6-7 days, just on a nice, easy swing. This one was, I usually don't do a small number, like, 287. We got in at 272. This is Wolf, but it met a lot of the criteria. And again, it's finally getting above that 20. We were talking about how it's been hitting the 20, and we finally got above the 20. And we'll see if it can continue to ride up. We got resistance at 306. You get in at 272. Wolf, we're up 5.5%, just in Wolf alone. ITW was on the list. This one we put on this week and had a nice little, put it on right in here, had a nice little pop yesterday. For me, if I'd have been in it, and I'm not, but it was on the list, I would probably have gotten out at the 200, but I certainly would have gotten out when it hit resistance up there, and that would have been a nice little run. You would have made about 4% on that just in a couple of days on that one. And then UNP was on our list.
Can I add a
United.
comment to that?
Go ahead.
ITW's construction fasteners, and what created that? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it's really
Because-
kind of interesting. I mean, I just look at the charts when I do technicals, and
I
don't
know,
normally do
but I know the company. That's why I'm
Yeah.
asking. It's like a Fastenal, okay?
Yeah.
ITW, but they have many different divisions, and I'm curious to understand what created that. But I'll look into that.
Okay.
But to me, this based on construction and where it's at, that's short to me. I'm not saying to do that. It's just got that wild look on it.
Well, technically,
Um,
I'd be out of it, Bob, right here, just because of where it's at on the
Yeah,
charts.
you would be out, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's a big leap.
It is. And that's just one of those lucky ones. I don't know why it happened, but we happen, and you see that once in a while. The charts look good, looks like it'll go up. Who knew this was going to happen? I didn't.
Yeah, that's I mean, like I said, the construction industry is contracting, not expanding.
Yeah.
So you had
Well,
yesterday, you had Wells Fargo underweighted it.
Yeah,
Deutsche Bank adjusted price targets to $256 from 258, and Wells Fargo adjusts price targets from to 235 from 230, maintaining an underweight rating. I don't, that could be, who knows what that could be.
That might be a good
It's-
short, just saying.
Yeah,
I don't, you're not telling me anything that okay, the analyst is up in its game on it. I don't see any reason behind it.
actually down, what,
He's
downgraded?
downplaying it, I think.
Oh, downgraded it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
So-
which should have caused it to go down.
right. So,
I have zero confidence in any analyst recommendation. That's me
Yeah.
personally, knowing analysts
mean-
and know how they work.
I know there's no way. So
I
unless
would
somebody
imagine-
knows something on the inside that we don't know.
Well, the charts tell me, Bob, to get out and it's probably gonna drop. We'll see, you know.
Yeah, I would have got out
But
of
I'll
that.
take my,
I mean, that's like,
well, that's,
yeah, that's too
well, yeah, I
high.
mean, you hit a couple resistance levels and especially my green line of death and I'm out, you know, but you know, that's why I just look at
I'm just
technicals
adding
on these.
caution to that. That's all I'm doing.
Union Pacific was about the same. We had this on the list. We got on and it waited till it got inside the Bollinger Band. It looks a lot like what we just looked at. It got past the 200 and, you know, it's got some room to roll if it can maintain this 200. Okay, if you were in this, I mean, we're up 1.8% and you're above. So always put your stops in, you know, and maybe you stop right here at below the 200 in case it comes back down and hits it. But you know, you should not lose on this one unless it opens way down here, and I don't think it's going to. But again, we had a nice run on these under the 200s. Yesterday, we talked about some that weren't on the list that just happened. Smuckers, we talked about it yesterday before the open, and look what happened. It went up 4.84%. Okay, under the 200. And I just looked at the chart, BFB. BFB.
I mean, that I can understand. It's food, you know?
Well, here's Brown Foreman. Okay. I'm just looking at charts, Bob. It's starting to come back above the 9. I'm starting to see a little bit of a turn. Again, this was yesterday. And then I look down and I see, okay, I got a MACD crossover. Okay. I don't like this here, but I have some room to go. But look where it went, right up to resistance. So
Yeah, I said.
again, that was a good one. That's BFB, that's 3.5%. Okay. On Brown Foreman. Okay. I'll take that and get out, you know, in one day. Okay. We talked about this yesterday. I said it had a 1-day close above the 9, also above support. And then we had a crossover of the MACD. K went up just under the 20, you know. So these are what I'm talking about. I'm trying to find these stocks that come down. I like this support level, just like United Health, and try to go up. And then we try to run them up. So we don't have to spend so much time watching them. We just run them up. We've got plenty of room before, you know, resistance. And, you know, we take 5, 6, 10% instead of like 2 or 3%, which is okay. McDonald's, remember we were watching this and we brought this up yesterday. So look at McDonald's, one candle close above the 9, the 9 starting to turn, getting some crossovers down here. McDonald's. Okay, now we do have some levels of resistance above it, you know, but McDonald's up yesterday 1.82%. We talked about Macy's out of all things. Again, I'm trying to find these ones that are coming back up. Macy's we talked about right here. I liked it because it was above the support level, the intermediate support, and it closed above the 50, which is a tough line to get above. We talked about that as we look back. And then yesterday, Macy's took off. Macy's up 5.75% since we talked about it yesterday. I mean, that was a good run. But not all of them did it. One kind of puked on us a little bit. Not New Max. Newsmax. Nope. Okay, this chart isn't working out. But anyway, Newsmax was down about 9%. I'm not going to screw with this chart too much. And I want to look at a little bit of our watch list. Sorry we're taking so long, but this is about technical. Here's our watch list, which meet kind of my criteria. On Estee Lauder, we waited until we saw it maintain above the 200. Remember saying if we can do the back test at 200 and get up, that's what it did. And that's when we put it on the list. And since we put it on the list, it's just been a nice runner up. Estee Lauder's up 13.19% since we put it on the list. And SYF, this has been a good one. Financial stock. Put it on the list. Again, it's above the 200, got above the 9, came back in with a Bollinger Band, rode that up. Yesterday, it touched the intermediate resistance level. That's where I would have gotten out for about a 10.09% gain, okay, on this swing trade. Again, I'm just using my trading plan. Reddit was interesting because we put it on the list right here when it came back to the Bollinger Band, and then it started doing that sideways, popped up, sideways, popped up. Reddit is still rolling pretty good. You have sell orders and resistance above it. But since we put it on the list, Reddit's up 9.4%. Always have your stops though. Put your stops where you don't want to lose. Once you're above your cost basis, you shouldn't lose money. You should always have a trailing stop or a limit sell order somewhere that you save money. You don't always try to get out at the top. If it keeps running and you got out with a profit, you got out with a profit is the name of the game. AMD. There's another one where I got out. AMD, we came up above the 200. Is it going to hold? It held. Get in. Came up. Resistance. Get out. Now, this is one where it ran up. You're like, oh, crap, I got out. Look, it came back down. Okay. So, you're happy with what you get on AMD. That would have been about 8.94% from here to here. Just to get out, yeah, you didn't get the top, but you got 8.94%. BKE, the buckle, retail guy, was on the list. Again, sideways, it's above the 9. You got the Bollinger, sideways, and then it popped up yesterday a little bit, 4.31%. Okay, above the 200, the buckle. Always have a stop in. These should be winners for anyone who's in them, and you're above your cost basis. Yesterday we talked about, this wasn't on the list, but we talked about Zeihan. I said watch Zeihan because Zeihan is now above the 200. And if it tested, it could roll, and Zeihan did. It came back, tested it. Zeihan went up yesterday 4.34%. So this 200 is a good level. Once you get above it and test it, it could run, and then you look above it and you say, okay, here's some sell orders, but you got a lot of room to run up to where the resistance is, and these are what I'm trying to find for you guys are the ones that'll run up, from where you get in as low as you can go. So you make 7, 8, 9, 10% before you have to get out, and you don't have to work at it every day. Once you're up, you put in a stop and you're always going to win. Couple more. Datadog. Sorry, we're taking some time. Datadog, again on the list, above the 200, it held, get in, watch it roll. Okay, even you could have even touched down here and got out. Some people would use the support level as a place to get out. Even if you've done that, you still would have made some money on that. But you stayed in, you're still rolling. Okay, you got some sell orders right at the Bollinger Band. But even with Datadog, you're up 3.79%. Okay. So use those lists and have a trading plan and follow your trading plan and try to gain as much as you can. Let the runners run. Put yourself a stop at whatever limit is. I don't like to go any more than a 2% loss. It's worked for me. Okay. Some others may say, I'm into more volatile stocks. Mine's going to be a 7% loss. Okay. And that's what I can handle. That's why you have to have your own trading plan. You can't just have someone tell you, this is what I do and get in and get out, because they may have a different risk tolerance and preference than you do. And you're like, oh man, I lost on that one, and you didn't want to lose on that one because you couldn't afford to lose on that one. Couple others, sorry guys. Berkshire, popping back up. I did actually purchase some when it was at this level here, right when it touched in on the 9. Okay, and I looked back and I saw where resistance and support. So as a you could either do this as a swing, or as an investment. And I'm looking at this purchase as in my investment account. It's above the 200. Okay, I'm just going to let this one ride. But Berkshire had a little bit of a nice run. If you can get above the 200, we're starting to see these kind of flatten on the Bollingers, still sideways, but I think Berkshire is going to be pretty good. And then United Health. United Health, we finally had that little bump. I mean, we've been going so far sideways on United Health since it dropped. I actually did get in a little bit down at this level. Again, I just look back and see where it was. Not a big position, but big enough to make a difference. And yesterday was a nice pop. We got some resistance above it. Now, is this a breakup? Oh, maybe. I mean, we got some good, sorry. We got some good momentum. We're above the Bollinger Band, but we do have resistance to 50 and sell orders right here. So, you know, at 337.01, we closed at 326. So cat's trying to help me. So, you know, just be careful, have your stops. So now I'll have stops on this or, you know, just to save it. But I think this one at some point is going to continue to go up. Is this the point? I don't know. So anyway, just be careful, but interesting day, an interesting week for a short week. And Trent, I'm really, really sorry about that, but we had a lot of good stuff going in swing trading. So just wanted to go over it.
All right, so non-farm or ADP payrolls came out. There was expectations for 100,000 increase. We actually lost 33,000 jobs, which for those who have been on this call for a while, shouldn't be a surprise. Let me see if I can switch this over now. The VIX jumped basically 2.91% on that news. So that economic uncertainty element is starting to come back in, maybe to the fold. But overall, you know, volatility is still low. And a lot of this has to do with just the dynamics of hedging by market makers, by indexes. I was reading today about how ETFs have to keep their balance with their underlying benchmark. And they'll do that using derivatives. And it really sort of skews what a true return is. You know, yesterday we saw S&P 500 go down. Well, there were stocks that did well within the S&P 500, but if you ran an ETF like SPY, you had to hedge it to keep in line with the overall index. And so there's a lot of dynamics that are happening beyond just a buy and a sell and individual performance. And so keep that in mind, how I'm just sort of blown away at how things on a bigger level, how markets are being not manipulated, but manipulated to an extent. And that is because of all the dynamic investment strategies, the ETFs now that have dynamic strategies like long short or vol funds or systematic trading funds, how they're skewing these things. So when I see an ADP report come out and it totally misses, you see volatility jump almost 3% in a matter of a minute. That tells me there's this underlying dynamic that can change the direction of things. When I looked at the tell sheet 12 last night, we had three positions that were positive. Everything else was negative, and it goes back to me, where I'm looking at it saying, okay, we're coming up against resistance. You had AEHR test systems was up 9.13%. It made a big move yesterday. Some news came out on it, but we still have this gap that could be filled and could bring up AEHR up into the 1576 range. Looks like it's going to open up a little higher today as well. Affirm, you're in this resistance level. and likely to come back towards the trade trend line. AMD, similar situation. Um, Up against resistance, it's pulled back, coming towards the trade trend line again. ARM, same verse, different, or same whatever.
Second verse,
Broadcom,
second verse, same as the first.
yeah, exactly. You're seeing it with Credo Technologies, came down to the 15 or close to the trade trend line here, closed up from it, but off its open. Looks to open lower today by actually open higher. Well, yeah, lower by almost $2 today, bringing it closer to the trade trend line, which is at 83.69. Your RSI, you can see this in all of these. Your RSI is weakening. It's starting to turn. IBM, right, just been going sideways for the last, what, 5, 6 days or so. Trade trend lines coming up to where it's at. We'll see if it supports there. Iran, this has been one of those Bitcoin conversion to data center plays. Um, Up yesterday, but closed off its highs. It was up 4.5% yesterday, but closed off its highs, and I couldn't hold that. But once again, you're at resistance. You saw that back in December. It's come back up there. Chances are you'll have this pull back towards this area, this trade trend line area. Just keep this in mind. If you're an intermediate to long-term investor, these stocks will divert from this trade trend line in a massive way, but they'll eventually come back down because profits have to be taken. And if they just ride this line up and they keep above this intermediate trend line, this can be real positive. Um, Meta resistance, we saw that back in February, hit resistance and is pulling back, coming towards the trade trend line. We'll see how if it holds there. Microsoft, um, followed gapped up after earnings, trade trend line coming back down towards it again. It's getting semi-predictable. Now, Micron, this is interesting, trading below the trade trend line, that is basically a hit against it in my, on my model. It's breaking through that RSI. It's all weakening. So keep that in mind. There's a good chance we'll see a pullback towards this 113. Your intermediate trend line is still below the 200. That's still a level of weakness. Keep that in mind as you're looking to build a position in this. And then Power Solutions just has been a steady rider up the trade trend line, but had massive selling volume on Friday the 27th and has been pulling back. But yesterday closed higher, not on anything above any average volume, so there's nothing pushing it. But chances are we could see a pullback to the trade trend line, fill a gap, build support, and then start moving higher. The way the market is, the derivatives and options market is structured, we should go into next week. We should see some positivity and most likely movement upward. But just keep in mind, a news story like the ADP number could change things, directionally. And that's why it's so important to have that risk management process in place. I did a video last week on more of an intermediate to long-term approach. If you're running trailing stops using like a 7% to 10% trailing stop on your long-term positions, or using the 200, which I did a second video on using the 200 as your indicator of when to de-risk your positions overall. So overall, I mean, this is a short week. This is a weird week, to be honest with you. I mean, you got a half day on Thursday. That's sort of bizarre. I believe the rest of the world is still open, so you may see some action in Asia and Europe. They don't celebrate 4th of July, of course, especially Europe. So, keep that in
Wasn't a
mind.
good year for them.
No, it wasn't. And so we could see some dynamic changes news-wise over the weekend, so keep that in mind. As you're going into the weekend, make sure you have a risk management process in place. So, Patrick, we haven't heard from you for a couple days, I think.
Been
Wow.
out to lunch on 3 consecutive days, and I just had to have a bit of R&R in my life, so I'm back again today.
It's good to get
Well, I
away.
hope
It's
you had a
good to
good
get
time.
away from that stuff, Patrick. It really
Yeah,
is.
Anyway, I've got a challenging position for you. I'm cash rich at the moment. I'm looking for optimal entry points for long positions on 5 of Kerry's growth stocks. I'll just give you to them, Mark. One is called Alvo, ALVO. The other is called DCTH. And the third one is NTLA. And the fourth is
You're way ahead
OS.
of me, Patrick.
Sorry?
So are you talking about long positions?
Yeah.
I'm gonna move it over to Trent, and Trent can get on with
Yeah,
his
Trent.
long term.
Sure.
Go ahead, Trent.
Okay. Alvo
Albotech,
here.
ALVO.
Yeah. You can see here trades below the 200, trades below the intermediate trend line. That's my line in the sand, has been butting up against it since what, June 17th. Hasn't had much luck getting above it. There's sellers in this area, and the trade trend line is now continuously going down. You're about to see this cross through, so I wouldn't touch it.
Okay.
RSI is at 35 on
Yeah.
my model. You know, I don't see anything other, what's going to drive it higher. Is there a news story? That kind of thing. Earnings don't come out until August 13th. So I'd wait for this break above the intermediate trade trend line, and see this the trade trend line start moving higher. But your big line in the sand is it continuously trades below the 200
Yeah.
since February 19th. So I'd be out of that. What was the second one?
Look at right there. Look at the end of on that chart at the end of May where it hit the 200. Look at that. It's just going to have trouble. Look at that. Look how many days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's what, since the 1st of
Back
June,
in, yeah.
June 3rd, continuously hit it. June 4th, it just gave up. And so I'd wait.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
Second one is DCTH.
DCTH.
TH. Yeah.
Above the 200, that's positive. Let me clear some of this out. Above the 200, so there's, if you use the 200, that's sustaining there. Let's see how long it stays there. Looks like it's going to open up positive today by, probably what, 20 cents or so. Below the intermediate trend line, you have a declining trade trend line. What I want to see is that this trade trend line, which is a 15-day moving average, this is front running your 20-day moving average. So it's front running it by 5 days. So if this continues to fall, that tells me that it's not being bought, it's not getting support, and there's a good chance we'll see a break below the 200. This is, my line in the sand is the intermediate trend line. For a lot of people, 200 is. If this sustains the 200, that'd be nice. Let's go out to see if we can go out to 5 years on a weekly. It's been above the 200 since August of 24. But you have some rounding here. You have resistance at 17.15. If you're looking for maybe a intermediate trade, if this holds up and we could see a break above the 15-week trade trend line, then you could see a move up for a couple bucks. But you still have this resistance level back here that was formed in February of 21. So keep that in mind. I mean, you got to have something that pushes this higher. You got to have an event. You got a news story. You got something to push this higher.
Yeah.
What was the third one?
NTLA.
Please say that again.
N for neighbor, T for Tommy, L for Lima, A for Apple.
NTLA.
Yeah.
So broke above the intermediate trend line. So that's a positive back in June 13th. Has come back, tested it the next day, and then moved higher, gapped up. Is trading above the trade trend line. That's interesting. Looks like it's going to open higher. For me, this would be something I would consider. The RSI is above 50. Looks to be pointing a little higher today. For those who are 200-day moving average people, you're still below it, but you could see it start a move higher. That would be roughly a $2 move, $3, yeah, $2 move and some change to the 200. So if you're looking for maybe a trade or something of that sort, that could be an opportunity. Volume was better than, the previous number of days, but your volume here is, well, that's 5 million, 4 million. So you're above, on average, above a million. So this could be a setup, Patrick. I mean, this could be one to definitely DCA into. Maybe on my model, 8% would be the max I would hold in any position. But you could start out with 100 basis point, 200 basis points, and just dollar cost average in. But once you get to this 200, that could be um, resistance. You can see it broke the 200. Well, broke it further back actually. It just, well, there you go. It broke the
Has trouble
200.
with the 200. Yeah.
It's since 21,
Yeah.
and has just basically trailed down. So you have this move, a break below, a bottoming, a move up, hit the 200, trail down the 200, maybe have a break here, trying to challenge the 200. We got hope. We have hope, and then it breaks down. But you've
If
seen
you
that
were, I mean,
historically.
if you did that, Paul Tudor Jones on that, look what that would have saved you
Yeah.
in losses
I-
just on the 200.
yeah. So that closed out on the January 3rd of 20 two at $118.99. Okay, so
Wow.
for some optimism on this, you've got there, and you got, let's just put it there, that going on. You have basically a formation of possible bottom. I mean, you think about it, he came off $100, or $110 off the high, right? So at some point it's going to bottom. It's become a penny stock. Well, institutionally, institutions don't buy, like mutual funds don't buy anything less than $5. It is above that, but you may have a level of accumulation here going on since April of this year. Could be a breakout. I mean, we could see some positivity. Earnings could be great. Excuse me. They come out on the 31st of July. But this 200 is, I mean, that's its, well, I'll keep it clean, but that's its nemesis. Keep that in mind
Yeah.
as you're putting into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patrick, I agree.
Yeah.
And for me, technically, on long terms, if I'm on a daily chart like we're looking at, if it's not above the 200, it's not an investment for me.
Sure.
And then to back that up, Trent, maybe go to a weekly and look at the 50 week and see where it's at on the 50 week. That's my backup. I want to see if it's above the 50 week.
Good
I don't know.
Lord,
Do
Garrett.
you have the 50 week on yours?
Microsoft's gonna lay off 4% of their workforce, nationwide.
Breaking news
Breaking news.
from Bob. Thanks, Bob.
4%. That's big.
Big. especially since they're probably because they're 30% of all their code is written by AI now.
Probably.
They're every kid in college right now getting a computer science degree just crap their pants. It said, crap, I'm not gonna have a job, but I'll have student loans. That yellow line I adjusted to 50. I mean, Mark, I mean that's what, $3,
Yeah.
$4 off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
And the trend's not good either.
what's that?
The trend isn't good on that one either, on
No,
the
it's
50.
but
Yeah.
no, but I will say, take this in account. You got this. I mean, historically, you're in this sort of channel right now, and I mean that this would be a hope trade or a hope investment right now for me. Um, there could be some news coming out. I mean, this is a bio company, right? If I remember right. So take that into account
Intella, yeah. Yeah, it is.
as you're looking at this stuff.
This was
Um,
one, I think this is one of your dad's old stocks, Intella.
It is. And I think that's the key. You know, when I built the Tell Sheet 12, it was to make money. And I took his fundamentals, I took his analysis, I take his theory in account, I use that list, and then I overlay my model on it. And I'm looking for stocks above the trade trend line, or the trade trend line, which is 15. That's a leading indicator on short term. I'm looking for long term, intermediate to long term. That's my intermediate trend line. And then bottom line, I look at that 200 because it's just naturally algorithms and markets look at that. I mean, if Berkshire breaks below the 200, the algos are going to start selling it. It's just how the system works. So I using that, it's totally old school, that 200, that just gives me some basis. So I would just, when you're going through Kerry stocks, there's a thesis behind it, and that's a strong thesis that he has for them. But also take into account algorithms they don't factor in fundamentals. Most of them just don't even look at that. They're looking at numbers, they're looking at volume, volatility, and price movement.
Yeah,
To keep that
Trey,
in
you're
mind.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah, my
I mean,
fourth stock.
here's your Berkshire right here. I mean, it has a history of the 200 being pretty good support.
Right, look at the S&P. Same
Yeah,
thing.
let's do that. Yep. Until it wasn't, but they came
Yeah.
back up, retested
But
here.
look at it from a weekly standpoint. I mean, it just historically holds that 200 on a weekly basis.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
doesn't mean it can't fall.
yeah,
It can.
but I look at, when I go weekly, I mean, you can use it. This would be the 200 week moving average. Okay, that's a long time. But historically, a lot of traders, and I agree, I use the 50 week to get in and out. And you can see, you would have gotten out here, miss this, and then it would come back. It would come back. But it's whatever your system is. That's what I use. And Trent has his system, and his system works, and it's what works for you. But the main thing I
What was
think,
your
Trent,
fourth
is
one, Patrick?
I think the main thing is to get out of your head between a trade and an investment, and don't mix them up. Otherwise, you're going to get screwed up.
Yeah, agree.
Okay. And my fourth stock is Oscar, OSCR.
Okay, give me a second here to pop this up here.
Healthcare.
Okay. Let me change this back because I didn't use that. Above the 200, that's pretty real positive. He had a big move on June 18th. Above my intermediate trend line, I want to see this intermediate trade trend line break above the 200. That'd give me some really long-term positivity. Thinking it's above the trade. Wouldn't be surprised. You've seen it. 1, 2 here, right here, resistance, resistance back in May 24, September of 24, June of this month, June 20th, and then hit resistance again yesterday and pull back. I wouldn't be surprised if this trade trend line becomes support, because you see it here in May, you see it here in December, and then just going all the way back to February of 24. So a year and a half ago. So this could become your support level. So an entry point, well, actually, pre-market looks like it's going to open up right at 1793. So basically a sizable drop in that. It's got enormous volume, so it's got that, but this trade trend line could be your potential starting point to start building a position, Patrick,
There's a
Okay.
good
because
level,
it will
there's a good
open
level of
there.
resistance at 2189, so just be careful.
Mark,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark,
yeah,
if I could interject on this chart here.
yeah.
If you draw a line at the tops of those wicks for the last 5 or 6 days, it's going straight up, right? Now, if you take
Right.
and go on the RSI and draw a line from the tops of the 2 top points, you see it's going down.
That's called a divergence.
That's a divergence. I would be very leery to be buying Oscar right now when you've got an upwards line on the chart and a downward line on the RSI. This is what the RSI teachers teach you. This is a reversal. This thing could pull back. I would be sitting back. I'd be really careful with this one.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I would
mean,
have been
just
out. I
alone
would have been out at
today,
2189 was my level.
it's going to open up $2 lower today. So to your point, David,
Oh, okay. I didn't even see that.
yeah, that yellow right here, that pre-market is 1790. So that's why I was saying you may have support right in this area where you've seen it be at one time be resistance. So, but to your point, that RSI dropping, I mean you're seeing that happen. So that RSI probably is going to close to 50 today.
It could be a potential entry point if it pulls back to that level.
Yeah, but here, Patrick, here's the thing: you want confirmation.
Yeah,
One day is not confirmation. 3 days
Yeah.
starts to become confirmation. So keep that
Sure.
in mind.
Sure.
Yeah,
And
but you
and
also want
finally,
to see that strength increase as well.
yeah, sure. Thanks for that. And finally, Cava, CAVA. V for victory, CAVA. Sorry.
Oh, CAVA. What do you see, Patrick?
Well, I just thought there was some potential there in the RSI. Maybe it had changed a bit. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you've definitely had since June 25th, last week, you've seen the RSI move from what is that, the 30 mark or so up to now 57. So you're seeing strength come into it. Broke through the trade trend line. That's encouraging. Okay, had that broke through that back
How about the
on the
MACD?
27th.
The MACD crossover as well. Has there been a MACD crossover?
Yeah, that was back about the 26th of June.
Okay.
Your intermediate trend line here is becoming resistance. Hit it Monday, closed below it, hit it or closed below it again yesterday. If you go back, this was resistance. It has played as a resistance support level or resistance level for a while now. So take that into account. I'd want to see, it looks like it's going to open at 84.90 today. I'd like to see it break above 85.20, confirm it, and then start moving towards that 200. So I would look at that as the line in the sand is right around that 85.20, 85.30 mark. So
Sure, sure. Okay, I look at,
Patrick, are you looking for trades or are you looking for investments?
I'm looking for investments.
Okay, but just be mindful of that 200. That like
I,
we
I,
always say, nothing good happens under the 200.
yeah, I understand. That's why I've been very cautious. I just nothing seems to be working out for me. Everything I look at, it just it doesn't materialize. So I'm just waiting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no issue with that.
Well,
Whew.
The other thing is, I know. Do you ever look at the YouTube? Have you ever watched the guy called ticker symbol M? Have you ever watched his broadcasts? Kerry
M
talks
or
about him
U?
sometimes, and he's come up with his own Mag 7 for the next 10 years, and he includes 4 of the present Mag 7, including Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, and Meta, and he adds in Broadcom, AVGO, TSM, and Palantir as his 3 extras, which is interesting.
I think the whole defense play is going to become a bigger and bigger factor. What's the private company who's doing all the autonomous military stuff? Oh, he's a crazy looking guy. He sold his VR glasses to Facebook for a couple billion. Starts with A. Anyways, I think militarily you're going to see more play in that. So Palantir would be interesting perspective because they're involved in that.
We had a request for GRNY, and this is Tom Lee's FundStat Granny Shots U.S. Large Cap ETF. It had a pretty good run. You can see off of support ran up. Unfortunately, we hit resistance up here. It has returned to resistance. We're starting to see rollovers on the oscillators on this one, but it had a really nice run up. But as we're seeing with a lot of what Trent and I have been showing you, we're running into a resistance again. When you have good momentum, eventually you either got to rest, change gears and go faster, or rest and and go down. So let me look at the volume here. Volume's pretty good. Yeah. So again, for a swing trade, you'd probably be done. I don't see a 200 on this. I don't know how long that's been. Let me go look at a weekly. Yeah. On a weekly, you're above your resistance level on a weekly, but again, a nice run up if you're going to trade it on a weekly chart. But other than that, okay, that's all.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the sectors right now. After watching yesterday, the tech sell off while the Dow was way up. And when I'm looking at this morning, I'm looking at energy is up. I'm looking to consumer discretionary is up. The banks are going to be great trades for a while because of the reduction in the rules and regulations that the banks have. They've got an extra $5 or $10 trillion to loan out now because of the rule changes. So I'm looking at a market rotation right now.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Here's your XLF. Look at this. You can, and this is the financial sector you were just talking about. And one of our stocks that we had was Goldman Sachs. And look at that. But be careful because you see resistance up above it too. So
Hey,
use your
Mark.
trading plan. There's JP Morgan. Look at that.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Go look at XLF again and go back a year. It's right up against resistance again.
Yeah. Yep. Well, yeah, it's you look right across. Got sells right above where resistance is. Again, this would have been a nice one for the Paul Tudor Jones world. Pop back in here as an investment. But you're right, Trent. You draw a line across here, and Oh, there's we just opened
Yeah.
right there. We
Here's
just
the
opened.
other thing. In the financials, they're, what was it, like 415 billion underwater because of their treasury holdings.
Right.
And these guys are bleeding. And now the 10-year yields going, or the yields are going back up. They're making a move back up. I mean, that's something to take into account. Like, how much pressure are these banks under right now?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and you start looking at derivatives and swaps and things like that. And I'm not an expert on any of those, but I know they're not looking good. I know enough to know they're not looking good. And if Mike was on, he could talk a little bit more about that. It looks like Berkshire's moving up a little today. And then United Health. See what our United Health's doing. Oh, yeah, down 1.15%, but still right on the Bollinger Band. So again. And then the general markets, SPY, right, opening right up inside the Bollinger Band. So there you go. Be an interesting day today. Tomorrow's a half day. Okay, so consider that too, and a holiday. Well, we got 3 new messages.
Next week will become a normal, I think, for a while, a normalcy when it comes to number of a full week of trading and then back to the races kind of thing.
Andrew said that private defense company is Anduril.
Anduril, yeah.
There you go.
Lucky something is his name, but the guy is brilliant. But he's just what they're doing technology wise, using all autonomous submarines, autonomous drones and stuff like that. It's really revolutionizing the the war industry. Sort of weird.
The war industry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's where I started out my career, in the defense industry.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else got anything? Or we're going to take off because we've been on. Everyone be safe out there.
Trading room if anybody comes over.
Yeah,
All right.
David's always over there in the platinum chat area, and always entertaining, always fun, and he's getting ready to move. That's why I see all those boxes back there behind him.
Hey, real quick, because we're gonna jump off here, but Arm, I'm gonna address your question that you have in the chat. I'll do that tomorrow morning and give you some insight how I look at that. So just want to let you know.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thanks for everyone's comments and participation. Tomorrow we'll see you half a day of trading, and then no Monday or no Friday call, and we're not going to have one for Kerry, right?
Yeah, Kerry's going to a 4th of July party. So I think it's his, this is his once in 10-year social event. So we're excited. Yeah.
Wow, that's good to know. Once in 10 years.
I think my mom's like really excited about getting out. So
does he have like a really wild 4th of July shirt he's going to wear?
I doubt it. Yeah, I think he had a custom AI printed shirt. Anyhow, but no, so we're not going to have Kerry's meeting on Friday, but we'll be back the week after. So, all right. Well, thank you all for participating, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a safe and great day, and we'll see you later.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
See you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, Patrick.